There are many who search for wealth in the outer world, chasing signs, symbols, and secrets, believing that fortune is something that comes from outside. Yet the wise observe quietly that what we carry within shapes what we receive without. Even the smallest choices, what we wear, what we hold, what we repeat, can become reflections of our inner state. In this way, colors are not merely seen by the eyes, they are felt by the mind. Each color carries a subtle influence, like a silent whisper shaping emotion, thought, and intention. When a person surrounds themselves with a color that stirs restlessness, doubt, or heaviness, they unknowingly invite those same qualities into their actions. And where there is confusion in action, there can be no clarity in wealth. There is one color, often unnoticed in its effect, that may quietly block the flow of prosperity, not because it holds power on its own, but because of what it awakens within the mind. This color is worn in moments of uncertainty, chosen in times of fear, and held close when one feels a lack rather than abundance. It becomes a mirror of scarcity. When the mind settles into scarcity, it begins to act in ways that close doors rather than open them. Opportunities are missed, risks feel heavier than they are, and decisions are guided by fear instead of wisdom. In such a state, even when wealth approaches, it is not recognized or received fully. Understand this clearly: it is not the color itself that blocks wealth, but the attachment to the feeling it represents. A person who is mindful can wear any color and remain untouched, but most do not live with such awareness. They are influenced without knowing, guided by unseen habits of thought. To move toward prosperity, one must begin not by changing the world, but by observing the self. Notice what you are drawn to in moments of doubt. Notice what you wear when you feel small, when you hesitate, when you expect less. These patterns reveal more than any external prediction. Instead of choosing from fear, choose with intention. Surround yourself with what uplifts clarity, confidence, and calm. Let your choices reflect abundance before it arrives. In doing so, you train the mind to recognize opportunity rather than avoid it. Wealth is not only a matter of coins and numbers. It is a state of alignment between thought, action, and awareness. When these are clear, even small efforts grow. When these are clouded, even great chances fade away. So do not fear a color, but understand it. Do not reject it blindly, but see what it stirs within you. When you master the inner response, the outer symbols lose their control. And when the mind is free from fear and lack, the path to prosperity opens naturally, like a river flowing without obstruction. In the end, the greatest fortune is not in what you wear, but in how you see, how you choose, and how you remain steady amidst all influences. Guard that, and no color will ever stand between you and your wealth. Wealth begins within, not outside. True prosperity is shaped by your inner mindset, not external symbols like colors or objects. Many people spend their lives searching for wealth as if it were something hidden outside of them, waiting to be discovered through the right sign, the right object, or the right moment. They chase symbols, rituals, and beliefs, thinking that prosperity will arrive if they align themselves with something external. But those who observe deeply begin to understand a quieter truth. Wealth does not begin in the world, it begins in the mind. What you hold within you, in your thoughts, emotions, and habits, slowly shapes the reality you experience. When the mind is filled with doubt, fear, or a sense of lack, it creates a lens through which everything is seen. Opportunities may come, but they appear uncertain or risky. Decisions are made not with clarity, but with hesitation. Even when success is near, it feels distant because the mind is not prepared to receive it. In this way, a person may believe that something outside is blocking their wealth, while in truth it is their inner state quietly guiding every outcome. External things like colors, objects, or traditions are not powerful on their own. Their influence comes from how they affect the mind. A person who is unaware may be shaped by these influences without realizing it. They may wear something that reminds them of failure, or choose something that reflects insecurity, and over time, these small signals begin to reinforce a deeper belief: I do not have enough, or I am not ready. These beliefs then guide actions, and actions shape results. But when awareness arises, everything begins to change. A mindful person sees that nothing outside has true control over their path. They understand that every choice, what to wear, how to speak, how to act, is an expression of their inner condition. Instead of acting unconsciously, they begin to act with intention. They choose what supports clarity, confidence, and calmness, not because it has magical power, but because it strengthens the mind. Wealth in its truest form is not just money or possessions. It is the ability to see clearly, to act wisely, and to remain steady in both gain and loss. When the mind is balanced, decisions improve. When decisions improve, results follow naturally. This is not a sudden transformation, but a gradual unfolding, like a seed growing into a tree. So rather than chasing signs or fearing symbols, one must turn inward and observe. Notice the thoughts that arise when you think about money. Notice the emotions that guide your choices. Are they rooted in fear or in trust? Are they driven by lack or by possibility? These quiet observations reveal more than any external advice ever could. When the inner world becomes steady and clear, the outer world begins to reflect that same clarity. Opportunities are seen where others see obstacles. Confidence replaces hesitation. And slowly, without force, the flow of wealth begins to open. In this way, true prosperity is not something you find, it is something you grow from within. Colors influence emotions and decisions. Certain colors can subtly trigger feelings like fear, doubt, or confidence, which then affect financial choices. Every color that surrounds us carries a subtle language that speaks directly to the mind. It is not a language of words, but of feeling, of vibration, and of influence. Just as the wind can stir the leaves without touching them, colors can stir emotions and thoughts without a person even realizing it. They have the power to calm, to excite, to inspire, or to disturb. When we speak of wealth and prosperity, it is not merely the material outcome that matters, but the state of mind that allows wealth to flow. Colors play a role in this, for they are mirrors reflecting our inner state back to us. Some colors naturally evoke feelings of openness, courage, and clarity. They energize the mind and sharpen focus, making a person more attuned to opportunities and more confident in their actions. Other colors, however, may awaken unease, tension, or hesitation. They do not carry any inherent curse, nor do they bring misfortune by themselves. Their effect depends on the state of the observer and the habits of thought that are already present. When a person wears a color that resonates with anxiety, fear, or scarcity, they may find it easier to manage their emotions and feel more at peace. It reinforces these patterns and subtly guides behavior in directions that block abundance. Consider the moments when fear or doubt arises. In these moments, the colors we choose or are surrounded by act like silent companions, reflecting back what we already carry. A color that feels heavy, stagnant, or constricting can magnify hesitation. Decisions that could lead to growth are delayed. Opportunities that could lead to wealth are overlooked. Even a single choice repeated in thought and action over time can shape the trajectory of one's financial path. The mind begins to associate certain feelings with success and failure, comfort and risk, abundance and lack. Colors act as invisible cues in this process, quietly influencing perception and decision-making. Yet this is not a matter of superstition or blind fear. It is a matter of understanding cause and effect at a subtle level. By observing how certain colors make the mind feel, one can cultivate awareness and choose consciously. A color that once reinforced worry can be replaced or paired with a color that inspires calmness, clarity, or courage. The shift is not in the color itself, but in the inner reaction to it. Awareness transforms the effect from limitation into empowerment. This understanding extends beyond clothing into every part of life. The environment we inhabit, the objects we surround ourselves with, even the visual cues in our daily routine. Each choice has the potential to either support clarity and abundance or reinforce fear and scarcity. The wise approach is not to reject colors or to fear them, but to notice their subtle impact and to select them with mindfulness. Through this conscious selection, the mind is trained to remain steady, calm, and open to opportunity. In this way, colors are a tool for self-observation and inner cultivation. They serve as reminders of our mental patterns, highlighting where fear or hesitation might influence our choices. By becoming aware of their effect, a person can create an environment that supports clear thinking, confident action, and harmonious flow. In the presence of such mindfulness, colors no longer control but assist. They become allies in the cultivation of prosperity, guiding the mind gently toward clarity and ensuring that wealth is not blocked by unseen, subtle forces. Scarcity mindset blocks opportunities. When a color reinforces feelings of lack or insecurity, it can lead to poor decisions and missed financial chances. When the mind dwells in scarcity, it creates a landscape where opportunities are overlooked and possibilities are clouded. Scarcity is not simply a lack of money or material resources, it is a state of perception, a lens through which all experiences are filtered. When a person carries scarcity within, every choice is influenced by it, every action is shaped by hesitation. And even the arrival of wealth may go unrecognized. Scarcity turns what could be abundance into fear, what could be opportunity into risk, and what could be clarity into confusion. In this sense, it is not the world outside that blocks prosperity, but the inner state that interprets the world through a limited, constricted view. A person living in scarcity tends to see threats where there are none and measures every decision against the fear of loss rather than the potential of gain. This mindset affects financial behavior in subtle ways. They may delay investments, avoid opportunities, or cling to comfort zones, believing that security lies in restraint. Each small choice reinforces the belief that resources are limited, creating a feedback loop where fear dictates action. Even when abundance is presented, the mind trained in scarcity struggles to recognize it, often letting it pass unnoticed or mismanaged. Wealth, in this sense, is blocked not by external forces but by the patterns of thought that govern perception and decision-making. Scarcity also influences emotions, creating tension and unrest. When the mind expects lack, every interaction and every environment is colored by anxiety. This tension subtly alters body language, communication, and decision-making, sending signals to others that reinforce limitation. Opportunities may be presented, but they are missed or mishandled because the mind is not fully present to see their potential. Scarcity creates a veil between the self and possibility, a veil that can only be lifted by awareness and mindful cultivation of thought. Recognizing this internal state is the first step in transforming it. To break free from scarcity, one must begin by observing the inner dialogue that accompanies every financial decision. Questions arise: am I acting from fear or possibility? Do I see opportunity or risk? Am I holding myself back because of doubt? These inquiries do not require external change, they require inner clarity. Awareness allows a person to respond rather than react, to choose action with wisdom rather than hesitation. By noticing the patterns that scarcity creates, one can begin to shift perception, cultivating a sense of openness, confidence, and readiness to receive. As the inner landscape changes, so does the outer. Decisions once clouded by fear become clear. Actions that were hesitant become purposeful. Opportunities that were ignored are recognized and embraced. Scarcity loses its grip not because the external world changes, but because the mind's lens has been adjusted. When fear is replaced with mindfulness, hesitation is replaced with confidence, and limitation is replaced with recognition of abundance, wealth flows naturally and without obstruction. The mind trained in abundance interprets every situation with clarity, transforming even small choices into powerful steps toward prosperity. In this way, the internal state of scarcity, once acknowledged and transformed, ceases to block money luck, allowing the natural flow of wealth to unfold. Awareness is more powerful than superstition. It's not the color itself, but your unconscious attachment to its meaning that impacts your financial flow. Awareness is the key that transforms influence into understanding, and understanding into freedom. Many people fear external signs, symbols, or colors, believing that these have power over their lives. Yet the truth is that no color, no object, no external circumstance has inherent control over one's fortune. What gives them influence is the mind's reaction to them. The moment a person becomes aware of this, they step into a place of power. Awareness allows observation without attachment, understanding without fear, and choice without compulsion. It is the mind that interprets the world, and the mind that interprets colors, shapes, and symbols can be trained to respond in ways that support clarity and abundance rather than hesitation and limitation. When one observes carefully, it becomes clear that influence is not the same as destiny. A color may evoke unease, hesitation, or discomfort, but these feelings exist first within the mind. Without recognition, they quietly guide behavior, shaping decisions and outcomes without conscious awareness. When a person acts without noticing these internal cues, they are not aware of the changes in their body that are happening. They are often led by subtle currents of fear or scarcity, believing that the cause lies outside themselves. Yet by cultivating awareness, a person can see clearly where the influence begins and ends, and where choice can be exercised. This clarity is transformative because it shifts responsibility from the external world to the internal mind, where true control resides. Awareness is not simply noticing, it is observing with impartiality and without judgment. It is the ability to see how certain feelings arise in response to colors, environments, or circumstances, and to understand the patterns these reactions create. A color that once reinforced fear or hesitation may now be seen as neutral, a signal rather than a command. This shift in perception allows one to disengage from automatic reactions and respond deliberately. The mind, no longer swayed unconsciously by external cues, becomes steady, discerning, and capable of recognizing opportunity. In this way, awareness serves as both shield and guide, protecting from unseen influences while pointing toward clarity. Through awareness, a person learns that external elements, whether colors, symbols, or objects, are tools rather than masters. They are mirrors reflecting internal states, not arbiters of destiny. By observing how these elements affect thought and emotion, one gains insight into deeper patterns of scarcity, fear, and hesitation. This insight is the foundation for deliberate choice, for the cultivation of habits that support confidence, focus, and openness to prosperity. No color can impose limitation once the mind understands its role as observer, and once the mind cultivates the ability to respond consciously rather than react unconsciously. In practical terms, awareness transforms daily life. Decisions that were once clouded by unease become clear. Actions that were hesitant become purposeful. Opportunities that were missed due to distraction or fear are now recognized and embraced. Awareness acts like sunlight penetrating a fog, illuminating the mind's inner workings and revealing both the subtle influences and the freedom to move beyond them. As this practice deepens, the mind becomes a fertile ground for abundance, capable of attracting and receiving wealth naturally. When one lives with such awareness, external symbols lose their power to block, and prosperity flows in harmony with clarity, intention, and wisdom. Intentional choices create abundance. Choosing what you wear and surround yourself with consciously can help cultivate confidence, clarity, and attract opportunities. Intentional choice is the bridge between thought and reality, between desire and manifestation. Many people live unconsciously, moving through life as if carried by the currents of habit, fear, or societal expectation. They wear what is convenient, follow what is familiar, and act according to impulse rather than awareness. In doing so, they surrender small but powerful opportunities to shape their own experience. True abundance, however, requires deliberate attention to even the smallest details. Every choice, from the clothes one wears to the colors one surrounds oneself with, is an expression of the mind. When these choices are made with intention, they reinforce clarity, confidence, and openness to opportunity. Wealth is not merely an outcome, it is the reflection of consistent, mindful action aligned with conscious purpose. Intentionality begins with observation. To choose deliberately, one must first understand the tendencies of the mind. Which patterns of thought arise when confronted with uncertainty? Which emotions emerge in the presence of certain colors or symbols? By observing without judgment, a person uncovers subtle habits that may either support or hinder prosperity. Awareness alone, however, is insufficient. It must be coupled with action. Once a limiting pattern is recognized, the next step is to act in a way that aligns with clarity and abundance rather than fear and hesitation. Intentional choices are not about rigid control, but about conscious alignment with the qualities one wishes to cultivate within oneself. The power of intention is evident in the way small actions compound over time. Choosing clarity and confidence in thought encourages decisive action. Decisive action attracts opportunity. Opportunity, when recognized and embraced, leads to growth. The mind that consistently practices intentionality develops a natural discernment, seeing paths of potential where others see obstacles and moving with purpose rather than uncertainty. Each choice reinforces this alignment, gradually transforming habits of fear and scarcity into habits of openness and abundance. In this way, the seemingly simple act of choosing consciously becomes a powerful tool for attracting prosperity. Intentionality also extends to the external environment. Surroundings, objects, and symbols reflect and influence inner states, and when chosen with awareness, they support rather than hinder the flow of wealth. For example, colors, images, and clothing can evoke confidence, calm, and focus, which in turn guide actions that are productive and aligned with opportunity. This is not about superstition or magical thinking, it is about creating a supportive environment that reflects the clarity one cultivates internally. When the inner and outer worlds are in harmony, the flow of abundance is unobstructed. Ultimately, intentional choice cultivates a mind capable of recognizing and receiving wealth naturally. When decisions are made consciously, fear diminishes, hesitation fades, and confidence grows. The person no longer waits for fortune to arrive by chance, but participates actively in its creation. Each deliberate action reinforces the belief in possibility and strengthens the mind's capacity to attract opportunity. In this way, intentional living transforms ordinary choices into instruments of prosperity. It teaches that wealth is not a distant reward, but a reflection of the clarity, purpose, and mindfulness applied in every moment. When one practices intentionality consistently, no external force, no color, no object, no circumstance can block the natural flow of abundance, for the mind has become aligned with the conditions that allow wealth to manifest freely and effortlessly.